Sienna paw, I was caught. The firelight flickered softly, casting long, dancing shadows across the gray stone walls. The scent was a mix of wood smoke and something wilder, more primal. My body was tired from days of running, and in this den of Alpha Caelans, my efforts halt. My pulse quickened as I felt the intense heat of Alpha Caelan's gaze on my back. I turned around as he approached. Black leather jacket, black pants, gray eyes, and hands in his pockets. His every step towards me sent a ripple of tension through my body, a delicate push and pull of fear and strange attraction that made breathing hard. The doors closed behind him, making my knees weaken with defeat. His godly face pulled me into a spell. Standing before me, he stood more than a foot taller than me, gazing sharply at my face like a predator. I could feel the space between us shrinking, and yet there was nowhere to escape. Not from him. Not from the strange pull of need curling in my gut. Not now. You're trembling, he murmured in a low growl that seemed to vibrate through me, sending a chill down my spine. But it's not fear, is it? His voice was as deep as the Pacific Ocean, drawing the spider to crawl on my skin. My heart began to pound as his hand reached out, the roughness of his fingers grazing the bare skin of my arm. I shivered, feeling the warmth of his touch sink into me, igniting something deep and visceral. Why are you standing? You should be on the bed. His words sank my heart deeper. I should have pushed him away. I should have resisted. But every inch of me craved his leather and spice-mixed scent, the subtle dominance in his touch, and the danger that seemed attractive. Come, he whispered, stepping a little closer, his hand slid lower, lingering on the curve of my waist before pulling me flush against him. The heat of his body seared through my clothes, and I gasped softly, betraying the storm of emotions inside me. No, I managed to say, this is what you were running from? His voice was dark, rich with amusement. The smirk on his lips deepened as his fingers trailed lower, grazing the waistband of my rugged pants. I was covered in dirt. You can't deny it, little rogue. This is where you belong. No, I repeated, more to myself. My eyes were soaked in his godly features, the medium-thick brows, the dark pink, full lips, and sharp, pointy nose. His breath was warm against my skin as he leaned slightly closer, sending a shiver down my spine. I couldn't move, even as every instinct screamed to resist. He chuckled, finding me staring at him longer than I had ever stared at myself in the mirror. His voice was low and filled with amusement. I know you feel it, he murmured, his fingers sliding down the curve of my hip. This connection between us, he was my stepbrother. You can't run from it. His tone wasn't just a statement, but a warning, a reality I did not want to accept. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure he could hear it. I'm not afraid of you, I lied, forcing the words out, but even I could hear the tremor in my voice. His lips twisted into a knowing smile, the dark amusement never leaving his gaze. You should be, little rogue, he whispered. His fingers tightened their grip on my hips, pulling me closer with a jerk. Our chests collided. My breath stuck in my throat. The heat of his body seeped through my clothes, making it harder for me to think and breathe. Breathe, he whispered over my face, his eyes staring deep into my eyes, sinking me within his desires. Let me go, brother, please, I requested, my voice shaking. I was fearful of what could happen at this moment. My next breaths came in ragged gasps, and I hated how much my body craved his touch, not in the brotherly way. We are not the same blood, he whispered over my face, his deep voice sending sensations over my skin. How much a part of me wanted to surrender to the dangerous allure of the man standing before me. I forced my gaze to break his, refusing to let him see how deeply he was affecting me. You think you can force me into this? He raised an eyebrow, his finger gently touching my chin to lift my gaze up and notice his smirk appearing. Force you? My heartbeats raced. He leaned in closer, his lips brushing the tip of my nose, the heat of his breath teasing my skin. "No, I won't have to force you. You want this as much as I do?" His voice was a low, seductive growl, sending a jolt of electricity through my veins. His touch, voice, and words reminding me of my teenage that I had spent in his shadow, in his home, sometimes waking up next to him, craving his brotherly adore. How foolish I was to take his love and care as brotherly. But what could I do? I was just 13 when my mother married his father, the previous alpha of the Blood Moon Pack, and everything was right and perfect between us until I turned 16. Then suddenly my feelings for him began to shift. I did not know if it was school's influence or teenage hormones hitting me hard, but I began to find him hot, attractive, and a part of me wondered, what if he was not my stepbrother? I spent my next 9 months running away from him, trying to hide myself, trying to keep myself locked in my room after the school because getting under the brother was something illegal, sinful, and wrong to me. Until one night, he came late at home, and I was awake by chance. I witnessed him taking his shift off and lying down on the couch. Until that night, his body and his eyes were not leaving my thoughts. I had no option but to run away. And that was when my whole night changed. A chase began for me.